And so we're expecting a big conference at the Goetheanum this September, the next Living Connections conference. And we expected quite a number of participants. And do we expect also that people will meditate together? Or generalize, what role do people who practice anthroposophical meditation play to each other?
Inessa, that is a very good and a very interesting question, because meditation, as I think anybody who practices meditation knows and realizes, that it is something which you do on your own. You're in a way entering into or creating a sacred space or a quiet space, a resonant space within yourself. And into that space, you can only go alone. You can't invite anybody else to come into that space with you. And therefore, it's a very good question. How are we going to have a conference on meditation with a whole lot of people? And we really do hope that many people come. And for me, the wonderful part of this work is that it's the individual developing and strengthening and building that unique individuality, particularly or partly through meditation, through a practice of meditation. But it's not building that person for themselves so that they become clairvoyant or a better spiritual person themselves, but so that they can contribute to the community and to the society better. And this dichotomy is what we're going to try and explore at the conference, at the Living Connections conference, because we're going to have workshops where people come and they're not going to meditate together. I mean, there might be moments of silence where you go into yourself and explore something within yourself, but that is totally individual, totally on your own. Nobody is allowed to enter that space with you. Nobody can enter the space that is your key core essence of your being. Nobody can enter that with you. So you are totally alone there. And the question, of course, what's more difficult sitting in a group is that you don't distract each other through your energy field. You know, we all have an energy field and we can easily distract each other by not holding ourselves poised and present and still in that inner place. But that's not still, if we are sitting together, we cannot call that group meditation. We can be guided by somebody in the group. But even there, I don't really suggest that one does that because it is so individual and needs to be free. And if somebody guides me and tells me what to think or what to feel or what to fill that space with inside of myself, it can take away from my freedom. If I'm strong enough, I can still enter into it myself so that it doesn't take away my freedom, but I can't judge that for other people. So I wouldn't myself, as a practitioner of anthroposophical meditation, and I've been practicing for decades, and I'm always practicing, I'll never get there. This is this thing of practice, that you are in continuous practice. And it's the practice which becomes a habit. It's not the result which I'm achieving. It's the practice which is my habit and which builds me and gives me the strength which I have. So as an anthroposophical practitioner, what I can do is share my experience, but not my meditation experience, not what I envisage, but how I practice. And to me, that's the point of such group work, is to share different ways of practicing different approaches to meditation. For example, you can have a walking meditation, you can have a standing meditation, you can have a word meditation, you can have sentence that you place in that core of your meditation, you can have an image, a picture, a color, an imagination. But all of that is part of the practice. That's not yet the actual meditation. And these aspects which we can suggest to each other are all guidelines to help to open that space. But the opening of that space and then the silent listening, the silent holding of that open space, that is to me the real meditation. And that you can't do for somebody nor with somebody. And that is a very important point which I would like to bring. And I'd like to add something else. You know, we are these multi-leveled beings. We've got these different levels in our being. And we can say that the physical and the life body they need to be nurtured and cared for and trained and developed and kept resilient and healthy. And they get that at night by sleeping. So if we sleep well and sleep enough, our physical body and our life forces get strengthened and healed and resilient. But then there's the more emotional part of ourselves, you know, that soul, we call it in the anthroposophical world, and our spiritual core, that essential being that we have, which you could call your unique self, or your, there's so many different names for it, your I, or your personhood. There's an African professor who calls it your personage or personhood, which is more than personality, much more. It's that unique part of your essential being. Now, those also need to be nurtured and guided and healed and rejuvenated. And that's what meditation does. So what sleep does for our physical body and our life forces, meditation does for our soul and our mind and our spiritual aspect. And these need to be in a kind of interplay. So with the physical body, a way of strengthening the physical body, we've said, is sleep, but also then going into nature. And immersing oneself in nature is also a way of nurturing the physical body, but it goes beyond just nurturing the physical body, because if we immerse ourselves in nature, we find the spiritual something beingness of nature. Yes. And that also speaks to our being. And if we go into a meditative practice, we're going into that quiet inner space, that sanctuary, that sacred space within us, and we can meet there our being. And we could say we can meet there not the natural beings that we have in the natural world, which nurture more our physical body, we could say. I mean, they do, because we also eat them and breathe them, but we nurture our spirit with the spiritual beings. So we live in these different worlds of beings, the natural beings, the elemental beings we can also know about, and then the spiritual beings. And for the health and not development necessarily, but the health and resilience and healing of us as human beings nowadays, particularly after COVID, particularly now with this threatening global warming and climate change, and also in times of war, I think it's very important to understand that our physical, our life forces, our mind, our soul, and our spiritual core need to be nurtured and cared for and allowed to remain resilient. So that's a big answer to a small question, but it's important for me to bring this individuality aspect, this individual aspect within the group, where we don't meditate as a group, but we are there to care and support each other in the group. I hope that was clear. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joan. Thank you.